Hello, viewers. Today, you'll see me make some homebrewed choujiu. That's cloudy Chinese rice wine. Please watch what I do carefully. If I make any errors, any mistakes, please write a comment below. I really want feedback. I appreciate it. I want to be doing this right. So if you see me doing anything wrong at all, let me have it. I want to hear about it. Thank you. So I'll be making choujiu. All you really need to brew this is glutinous rice, so-called Chinese yeast balls or yeast cakes, and water. And I'm going to use wine yeast as well, so we'll get to that. So this is sweet rice, also sometimes called glutinous rice, nuomi. For this recipe, I'm going to use 1 kilogram of sweet rice, and I wash and rinse this repeatedly. That takes 10 or 15 minutes to do this. Need some patience. So wash and rinse the rice. Once the water is pretty clear, just fill up the bowl again, and I'm going to soak this overnight. And the next morning, drain the soaked rice and rinse it off again and let it drain for 30 minutes. And then place the rice in the steamer. We're going to prepare this for fermentation by steaming it. Steam this 40 minutes. And carefully open it up when it's done. So it's too hot to use right now. We're going to spread it out to cool. And you got me, this is 2 kilograms of rice. I'm sharing this rice with another project. So this is actually 2 kilograms, not 1 kilogram. Cool it down to 30 degrees Celsius or below. So these are the Chinese yeast balls, literally Shanghai wine cakes or balls or pellets. It says sweet flavor on them. So they're called yeast cakes or yeast balls, and they contain enzymes that convert starch to sugar. And I'm going to use 4 of them. That's 44 grams. And I'm going to turn them into a powder. It's pretty easy to do. And I'm going to mix them with 200 milliliters of water. Quite dusty now. I'm also going to use white wine yeast. And that's for my own peace of mind, so I don't worry about the fermentation starting. So mix that together while we're waiting for the steamed rice to cool off. And once it's cool, I'm going to use half of this rice. So from 1 kilogram of rice, fill up my fermentation jar, which I have sanitized earlier. Pour in the yeast cake mixture and 800 milliliters of water. Choujiu. I thought you said choujiu. Yes, I'm going to mix this by hand. Stick my whole hand in there. My hand is clean. It's a lot easier to separate the grains by hand and make sure everything is mixed properly. Then instead of using the lid, I'm going to cover the jar with a cloth. And I'm going to ferment this in a dark place. It's around 18 degrees Celsius. And the next day, take a look at it. Okay, it's absorbed all that water and it's pretty solid. I am going to stir it. I want to feel the texture. Okay, it's very solid. It's difficult to mix up. Okay, so I'm going to put the cloth back on. Next day, day 2, I listened to it. I want to hear some bubbling. I'm not hearing anything yet. It is softer now. It's a little easier to stir, but I'm not hearing bubbling. You know, day 3, it is softer, but still no bubbles. This is an emergency, but I'm not going to panic. So that's something I have problem with sometimes is I don't know if my yeast balls are effective. I know this yeast is good. I've used it many times. The wine yeast is good, but I'm not sure if the yeast balls, the yeast cakes are too old or something. So I'll try a different brand, powder them up, and add some more wine yeast as well. So I'll try to get the fermentation actually started. After 3 days, it really should be bubbling. So if it's not bubbling after 3 days, have to do something. And what you can do is just add some more enzymes and add some more yeast. And it has had time to soften up. The rice is softened up, broken down a bit, but it's not fermenting yet. This should get it going. And this time, I'm not going to mix with my hand. I'm going to mix with the spoon. Okay, I'm keeping the cloth on to allow for maximum airflow. Okay, now the next day, there are bubbles. And I can hear the bubbling as well when I listen closely. That's good. It has started to ferment. It's quite gooey. I want to get enough oxygen in there to encourage the yeast to multiply at the beginning. That's why I'm stirring it again and leaving the jar covered with cloth. Stir it again. Day 6, stir it again. Okay, so it is fermenting. It's been spent 3 days fermenting now. I'm replacing the cloth with the lid that's almost completely closed. And now we just watch it ferment day by day. And it has softened up. It's more liquid now. Because it's so gooey, though, the bubbles are often trapped in the rice. We can see that. And as time goes on, we see the rice in the lower part of the jar is broken down into small pieces, and larger bits of rice float up. That's where you see the bubbles. It also seems like the top of the jar is collecting more liquid. So we're going to let this ferment for 2 months, for 60 days. So we're halfway through now. And it is still fermenting slowly. So this is a long duration fermentation for me. This is a single stage brew, but it's fermenting for 2 months. So that's quite a long time. But it's we'll get the maximum effect of the enzymes. You can really see a clear layer of wine collecting on the top here, and the rice grains are really broken down. You can see they're quite small in the lower part of the jar. I like keeping a record of how the fermentation looked day by day, and I hope you find this useful too. When you're doing your fermentation, you can compare with what my jar looked like on a particular day. See how yours compares with mine. I'm not seeing any bubbles now. It's been 2 months, 60 days. I'm going to bottle this, and I am going to filter it. There's the bits of rice below the clear wine on top. I'm going to boil a filter bag. Now, if you want to know about any of the equipment I use, please see the description of this video. So I'm going to stir it up to make sure there's nothing stuck on the bottom. And I'm going to tip the whole jar over into the filter bag. That's the quickest way to do this. So let's just be sure there's nothing stuck in the bottom of the jar. Okay, not too bad. Then I just close up the filter bag and squeeze. And this is easy to squeeze, no problems here. And there's still some rice solids left over. I'll show you what's left over here. That's the lees. There's only 208 grams. So I think that's really good. This is soft and still a bit wet. I'm going to save that for later. Maybe I can use it for something. And the rest of it, the cloudy wine, I'm putting in these plastic bottles. So this is my Choujiu, my cloudy Chinese wine. And let's pour a bit. Right now it's all mixed together. It hasn't settled at all. So I'm looking forward to tasting this. It looks like it fermented really well. Nice color, looking good. And I'm going to taste it now. But as always, I'm going to wait a few days before I give my judgment. And you're going to see that right now. Okay, it's been 3 days. This is my my cloudy Chinese style rice wine. It has settled nicely, so I will be able to drink this clear layer. I will be able to sample it, and I'll also mix it up so it's completely cloudy and try it like that. So let's do that now. So this is the relatively clear part, still pretty cloudy at this point. So maybe I could call this part Guangzhou. Okay. But I'm also going to mix this up. It's very soft, fine sediments at the bottom. It's easy to mix up. Yeah, this is easy to mix. So this is cloudy Chinese rice wine. All the rice sediments are in there. And it's quite light in color. So this is, okay. Of course, need to taste these. Okay, so tasting the clear layer, a lot of sweetness, but what I taste first is some citrus tartness, but right away it gets into sweetness and the alcohol. So almost a bit like lemonade, at least in concept, or an alcoholic lemonade. Yeah, surprising amount of sweetness. This is sweeter than most of my rice wines. Okay, and with the rice sediments, as this cloudy rice wine, with the rice sediments, it has a richer flavor. So it's more milky, I guess some grain or rice flavor. But it's a richer flavor, and it balances things out. So it's not just the tartness and the sweetness. Yeah, this is a better flavor for sure. Yeah, and I'm going to enjoy drinking this now. I don't think I'm going to let this age because it tastes really good right now. So this is not going to last. I'm going to be finishing this bottle long before it has a chance to age. Although it should keep for a few months, no problem in the fridge, even with all this sediment. So one thing that's missing from this, there's no bitterness. There's no bitterness. That's something that can happen in a lot of my rice wines. There can often be a bitter aftertaste. In this one, there is no bitterness. The fermentation seems to have, and the conversion of starch to sugar seems to have proceeded without making any bitterness. So I'm glad for that. This tastes really good. This is I'm very pleased with this result. So for this cloudy Chinese rice wine, I used Shanghai yeast cakes, Chinese yeast balls. That's the enzymes that convert the starch in the rice to sugar, and I also added white wine yeast, and that yeast converted the sugar into alcohol, and the result is a very rich tasting rice wine. It is cloudy, but it tastes better cloudy than clear. So I am going to enjoy this. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Thank you for watching.